guys, Sarah here, just to do a quick video about hand cutting stickers. It's been asked before about the best way to hand cut stickers, and I just figured I would show how I would do it, or how I used to do it about a year ago before I got a cutting machine, when it was just me making printable files for my own little funsies, and then I ended up selling them, and then I ended up getting a cutting machine, and anyway, that is the whole story. If you can hear a loud fan, it's because I'm actually exporting a video, so my computer's being like so loud. Anyway, things you will need to cut stickers: a cutting mat. Mine's pretty thick. I like this one. I've had it since my camera doesn't focus. What's the point? I've had it since college. And I just love it. It's great, and it's just like Selectum or whatever the hell. And of course you need your sticker sheet, so just print it out at 100% or whatever. And I would not really recommend cutting round shapes, especially until you get more practiced, because it will not be easy. That being said, straight shapes you can cut with scissors. I just find that this way is a little more precise using an X-Acto blade. So to do this method, obviously you need an X-Acto blade, and yeah, you can pretty much get this at like Staples, craft stores. Are you guys freaking out that I'm like tapping it like that? I've stabbed myself with these before. Oh my god, so bad. And then I recommend a metal ruler. This one I've had since college. It's pretty hardcore because it was meant for like our design class and measuring like really tiny measurements. Like over here we've got up to 30 seconds of an inch. Oh, and over here 30 seconds of an inch. So you don't need that, but like a metal ruler or a sturdy ruler that's gonna stand up against the blade. Okay, so let's just get started. It seems pretty straightforward, but I'm gonna show you anyway because you can just not watch this if you don't care. So you kind of want to line it up till you can see a little bit of the sticker, and then I just push it out a little bit from there until I can no longer see the sticker, or I can see like a teeny tiny piece of it. And then personally what I find, you need to hold the ruler down sturdy. So because if you move, either your blade is going to go flying away, or it's going to go flying the opposite way. Anyway, it's just make sure that you are firmly holding this down. You're firmly holding the paper down as well. And then you just kind of pick your starting point of where it starts and do a cut. Now if you want to cut all the way through, you could do that. Otherwise you could do light cuts to try and get part of the way through. Now note that my blade's probably really old right now. I really should change it out, but I probably just won't. Now personally, if I was actually going to use these, I wouldn't cut on this edge. I would flip the paper around and cut. So how about I actually do that? Here, we'll just start from that. Just because if you do slip, like if your hand slips while you're cutting, you're going to end up cutting through your sticker, which really sucks. So then, and it does help if you have a ruler that has some see-through area, just so you know kind of about where to cut. And I'm just kind of putting light pressure. I'm probably cutting all the way through it. You would need to practice a bit because you might be able to only cut through the sticker without cutting the bottom, but I am cutting all the way through. So it's definitely harder to get like a kiss cut with this method. Let's just see if I can like really lightly trace it. And then see if I could pull that out. Okay, so when I was really light, I didn't actually cut all the way through. So I'm able to pull it from that corner, and there's just a little piece there. You could tug it, or you could just cut it with your X-Acto blade, depending on what you need to do. And so that's actually a pretty nice job. A little bit rough because this blade is not new. In fact, I should probably just change it out, but I'm too lazy. I'm too lazy right now, and whatever. And that one little tufty corner, not so great, but overall pretty good, very straight. And I will just sit that back on there. Also obvious, this probably seems obvious, but little trick for cutting multiples at once if they're all lined up perfectly is that you can kind of line everything up for yourself and then just go ahead, and you can overcut on these kind of things. Like, it's really better to overcut than undercut the edges, because it really doesn't matter. But you see that I did all 3 of those in one, so then I can go back to this side and just kind of line them up carefully. Now the general rule of thumb is measure twice, cut once. So just make sure that you're kind of in the right spot so you don't ruin everything, because you'll be really sad. And so in these cases, and let me just show you what happens. So if you're not careful while you're moving your blade, then you can end up going out like that. And then you just ruined your sticker. You can't use that sticker now. Well, I mean, you can, but it's got scratch to it, or it might be cut right through. So you want to make sure that you're kind of really riding that blade right against the ruler. And that's why a metal ruler is actually best, because then you're not, if it's a wood ruler or plastic, you're going to be cutting into it. It's going to get stuck, and then you're going to pull too hard and you're going to stab yourself or something. So I would highly recommend a metal ruler for that reason. And as well, be very careful of how you're placing your hands. So this is what I feel works best for me for applying pressure, because I have really weak hands, and this is a pretty hard position. It does kind of hurt me if I put too much strain, but be sure that you're watching where your thumb is, because it can start to kind of slip away from you and you're not paying attention. And one time I was at work and I was cutting out like mat boards, and my thumb was a little bit too far, and I actually cut like a little piece of my thumb off. Especially if you're using a new blade, it's very, 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 very easy to do it. So just keep that in mind and pay attention. If you have children around, be very aware of where they are and what they are doing if they are near you. Sometimes these can slip out of your hand and fall, and when they fall, they go straight into the ground, which looks really hilarious and cool, but if it happens to drop out of your hand and hits your child or hits like your cat or something like that, would not be good. You'd be very upset. So please be very careful with these blades. I know I'm fooling around and kind of dicking around with mine, but this blade is super old. And even then, if I dropped it on my hand right now, it would hurt a lot. Like, I'd be bleeding like crazy. So just be very careful with them. So this one I tried to use really light pressure. You'll have to play with it to see what's right for your paper and your blade. But fairly light pressure, like twice over, really did the job. I'm not going to pull it up though. Now, as for kind of different shapes, so you want to use a ruler as much as possible to get the straight edges. So for this weekend banner, I'm going to cut across. And personally, I find that a couple of light strokes versus one deep stroke is better, because you keep more control. If you're pushing really hard, I find that that's when you can kind of get stuck away later. I mean, by stuck away later, I mean either going out or like accidentally going this way, or you know what I mean. So, and then two like this. And then, so these ones, when you get into smaller cuts like this, you have two options. Because you have the... because the blade is very much like a pen, if you have good hand control and you're not super shaky, you could actually just come in and hand cut these pieces. That being said, you have to be pretty careful and slow about it, because you will end up with some white areas on some. So if you're not a perfectionist, then that's probably the way to go. To be honest, this is what I do. It's the fastest. You just have to make sure you don't cross cut through there. It's not a big deal if you do, but it'll look nicer if you don't. So that's really what I recommend for smaller ones. You could get your ruler in there and measure it up and do each piece, but to be honest, like, it just takes practice. So, and keep in mind, I did take in school for graphic design, I did actually take a studio course where we did practice kind of cutting out and mounting things, and I just like cut that one way off. Cutting out and mounting things and kind of like cutting out things to a specific shape. So if you are kind of looking at this and going, holy shit, I can't go that fast, or wow, my cuts are way messier than this, or something like that, don't feel discouraged at all. I'm not saying I'm amazing. I'm definitely not. I'm like really rough cutting these, but it might take a little practice to get used to working with the blade as a pen, but you can get pretty good cuts from these. Okay, and just one more. Let's take a stab at doing the rounded edges one. So what I'm gonna do is cut the straight edges first, and I'm gonna just like basically cross cut those. So yeah, like expect to go through a sheet or two to kind of test on, because you really need to get a feel for what pressure is gonna work for your paper and your blade, because every paper type is different. I can't give you an exact amount of pressure, an exact amount of times to go over it. Usually I find that when you're trying to do a cut like this, just be gentle and kind of do, usually I just do 2 cuts. And then so for this, you just kind of need to be careful. And it may end up being a straight line. It may end up looking like crap, but just be slow with it. So these little pieces are so tiny that they are actually coming out as I cut them. So you might have to hold it down to make sure that you don't accidentally keep, like some of these are probably going to be frayed when I pull this sticker out. And really it's going to be more like, it's not really going to be rounded edges, it's really going to be kind of like little angle cuts. But like I said, it would take a lot of practice, and I honestly wouldn't really recommend hand cutting rounded boxes and stuff like that, because you can see it gets pretty rough. Like it looks fine from far away, but it can get pretty rough, and it's especially with such a small rounded corner. If you had something a little bigger, you probably could make it work. Or maybe if you you could do your rounded corner first before you do your straight lines. That may actually help. Okay, so I usually want my video cut out. So I just did hand cutting the corners first on this one, and then used a ruler for the straight edges. So let's just try and pull this guy up. So this one's a lot better. So if you're gonna do rounded corners, I would definitely cut, like freehand the corners first, and then do the straight edges for the rest of the box. Or if it's a full circle, good fucking luck to you. But just again, with practice, it'll get a lot better. So, you know, if you really want to practice kind of, if you want to practice to get good at like hand cutting like deco pages and things like that, I would say like first off, maybe start off with like rounded boxes and things more simple to kind of get used to that curve. And then you could just print out one sheet that has a lot of little tiny detailed ones to play with, and don't expect to actually use the sheet necessarily, because you'll probably screw a bunch of them up, but it's cool. But then you could practice with that sheet, get kind of a really good feel for using the X-Acto blade and kind of angling things. So for circles, what would be great is putting your blade in, and then you can actually try to like move the paper a bit with it. So you will not have an easy time getting full circles. And to be honest, if you're hand cutting stickers, I wouldn't really stress about that too much anyway. I would just maybe try avoiding circles. And then let's see if I can peel that guy up. So you can see that obviously circles and things are pretty rough, especially that, because I don't actually have a circle there to cut from. But anyway, I hope you guys find this video useful. Let me know if you have any questions, or if you have some great advice that might be helpful for hand cutting stickers. Then definitely leave it down below so other people can check it out. And that's really it for today. So I will be back later this week with another Plan With Me. Subscribe if you haven't. Be sure to like this video if you thought it was helpful. And if you want to see any more kind of like this, or like how-tos or anything, let me know what kind of things you would want to see. And if it seems like something I could make, then I will do it. Okay, I will see you guys in a few days. Bye! Okay, sorry, one more note on safety before I go. Keep in mind that depending on your blade, it may roll. So again, if you're on an uneven surface, be sure to be aware of where your blade is, especially if you have children or pets or anyone who's gonna muck around. Never, ever leave these out. If you have children in your home, presume this is pretty obvious, but not even for a second, because these things are freaking dangerous. Like I said, like if you hits the floor, it sticks right into the floor. It doesn't usually crash over. I've cut myself with these. I've cut chunks out of my finger with these, and I'm generally pretty careful. As well as when it comes to disposing the blades. So I'm actually going to switch out blades right now anyway. So for mine, it just unscrews to kind of open up this opening. And then you take out the blade. So if you do not have a way to dispose of these blades, then what you should do, and what I used to do in college before I got a way to do it, was you can take like duct tape, or masking tape is even usually pretty good, and you can just kind of wind it around several times, okay? So like get it fully covered, get it to like a little ball, and then you can throw it in your trash. The other method is getting one of these guys. So I think this actually came with mine when I bought it back in college, and I'm sorry, this was like 7 or 8 years ago, so I do not remember where I got this. But it actually comes, it's actually like a blade repository, so like it's got fresh new blades in it, but then it's also got a little spot that you can put in your old blades. So these are number 11s, by the way, if that matters. So you just kind of slip in your blade, and you can hear that I've got quite a few in there actually. I don't even know how to get them out. I assume that you can like open this thing up somehow if you wanted to. But I think the idea is more that you would use up all of this and then throw it out. So in this case, I've got to sneak another blade out here. And yeah, these are super sharp when they're new. Be very careful. I lost the cover to mine, so scary. But like, yeah, it's pretty bad. I used to have a cover for mine, and then I bought a second one because I couldn't find my pen anymore. So I bought like my X-Acto blade. So I bought a second X-Acto blade, and it didn't come with a lid. So my other recommendation would be, especially if you have kids around, especially if you have like anyone who's gonna be messing around, I would definitely make sure you find one with a lid. And if you don't, then make sure you have a good spot to store it where people are not going to be like pulling up from drawers and it falls down somehow and hits them in the face or something weird. Anyway, this is probably me being like crazy, but I just figured I would mention that. Obviously do not talk with it like I am and like waving it around. It's not a good idea. So anyway, yeah, back to doing what you were doing.